some struggles with my orientation on my phone. I know people hate when I do these live streams in vertically instead of horizontally, so I had to make a quick change here real quick. Good morning from the Philippines, BGC, which I'm currently staying. Today we're going to talk about kind of my year in review. I've done all kinds of travel this year, from international travel to living on a cruise ship for part of the year, and just going to discuss that and answer any of your questions that you have about the different kinds of travel I've done. If this is your first time watching, my name's Kevin. I retired from the military. I went to law school. I became a corporate lawyer. In 2019, I decided to quit my job and travel the world full time. And every year I've kind of traveled a different way. My first year, I traveled in a group program called Remote Year, where I lived in a different country every 30 days, and I traveled with the same 35 people. Actually, that company, Remote Year, just went out of business, unfortunately. It's kind of a sad day for me that they went out of business, because I had such a wonderful experience. My Remote Year program ended in March of 2020, and if you remember what was just starting in March of 2020, I had to change my travel style. I couldn't travel internationally anymore. So I bought an RV, a van actually, and I did van life for a little bit over a year. And once I was able to travel again, I bought a ticket to Thailand, bought a motorbike, and motorbiked all over Thailand for a year. And then last year, I lived on nothing but cruise ships. I had a little break for a minor health issue, and that's why some of my cruising bled into this year. And then this year, I've been actually searching for places around the world that are good live, work, play type of places. And I lived in the Philippines for 3 months, or 4 months actually. I'm here now. It'll be 4 months when I leave. Thailand and Malaysia. So let's jump in and talk about each one of these. So the beginning of 2000, and then by the way, we'll jump into a Q&A question answer thing. Sometimes it runs a little bit long, but if you watch the first 15, 20 minutes of the video, you'll pretty much hear all the questions. The other ones are just repeated. I like to stay on long so I get the East Coast and the West Coast of the United States when they're able to watch these videos. So that's just a little info. So at the beginning of the year, I was cruising. I actually tried something different. I decided to stay on a ship long term. I was on the Ruby Princess for over 100 days. I can't remember exactly how many, like 119 or something like that. Maybe even more than that. I have to look at my cruise calendar, but I was on there for a good amount of time, the same ship. And my previous philosophy was I liked to move to different ships every 15 to 30 days to experience new ships, maybe even new cruise lines. But that kind of got old for me, having to relocate and deal with the logistical side of that. And I just prefer to find a ship with a buried itinerary and ride that ship long term. And that's what I did with the Ruby Princess. It started in the Caribbean. We did some Caribbean cruises, and then we went through the Panama Canal. So we did a Panama Canal cruise. And then we went up the west coast of the United States and did it was called like a Goonies type of cruise, because they went to Astoria, Oregon, where the Goonies was filmed. And then I started doing Alaskan cruises out of Vancouver. I did a bunch of those. It was a bunch of different type of cruises. Some were inside passage, some were outside passage. And it was great. And that ended around April, May timeframe. And I jumped on a plane to Thailand. The reason I went to Thailand, the primary reason, was I wanted to get a bunch of dental work done. I'm almost 50. I wanted to bring back my youthful smile. I have a whole video about this, but I decided to get a bunch of dental work done in Thailand. So my first month and a half was just getting all kinds of dental work. I got 6 veneers and 22 crowns, I believe. So a full mouth restoration. I don't know. What do you think? How does it look? I got a whole video about the whole thing. I'm 6-7 months removed from that now, and I couldn't be happier with the results. I'm super happy I did it. And it was pretty inexpensive relative to what you would pay in the United States. I had a US trained doctor. She actually went to University of Michigan Medical School, or Dental School, which is one of the top dental schools in the United States for cosmetic dentistry. And all the brands I have are the exact ones you would get in the United States. My brands of veneers and my 6 veneers and my 22 crowns, all the exact same brands. They have some really great artists there that make the teeth like have little lines in them so they look like real teeth. It's just my crowns and veneers actually look more real than my other teeth did, if that makes sense. But I did that, and it was a great experience. Again, I have a whole video about it. I document from day one until the final dentist appointment. So it's a really in-depth video if you're interested in dental tourism. And after that, I moved over to a community called Wisdom Connect on the outside of Bangkok. And like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to try out a bunch of live, work, play communities. I like places where there is a grocery store within walking distance, multiple restaurants. I don't really need to use a car, rarely. There's gyms, there's pools, there's entertainment, like movie theaters, all that kind of stuff within a 1 to 5 minute walk. And so I found this place called Wisdom Connect, which was basically a community that was built with the idea of live, work, play. And it was a great place to hang out. My building was great. My apartment was great. I have an apartment tour on here if you're interested. And it was just a great little community. It was a little bit small, but it still met all my needs. I was right on the train in Bangkok, so I could go into downtown Bangkok really easy, just a 10-minute ride. So it was really easy, and it's definitely a place I could see myself spending a lot of time in the future. After that, I flew over to Malaysia, and I stayed in 2 different Airbnbs in 2 different parts of Kuala Lumpur. And I'll be honest with you, neither of them met my needs of live, work, play. The first one was it was across the river, if you know anything about Kuala Lumpur. And so it just wasn't convenient. There was a grocery store within walking distance and a mall, but it just wasn't that great of an experience there. There wasn't a whole lot to do. It was kind of a concrete jungle. And then I went to in-city condos, which are beautiful. They have amazing views of the lake over there. But that place ended up not being, it actually ended up being worse than the previous Airbnb I was in Malaysia. The building did have a grocery store and some restaurants, which was nice. But it was right on a highway, so to get to the park or any walkable areas, you had to kind of navigate getting across the highway. And it just wasn't, again, it was a concrete jungle, and there just wasn't a lot there other than the grocery store and a Burger King in the building. There wasn't a lot there, and it didn't meet my live, work, play needs. And then after that, I spent 2 months there. After that, I flew here to the Philippines, which is where I'm at now. I'm in BGC, which is Bonifacio Global City. It's in Manila. It's like it's an amazing, modern, kind of upscale neighborhood in Manila. Very safe and super, super walkable. I'm probably in the least walkable part of BGC. I'm in Uptown BGC, and it's still ridiculously walkable. It's still a 99 on the walkability scale. Right there is a mall with a bazillion restaurants and a grocery store. I don't have to leave. I don't have to go outside other than I walk outside my building and it's covered, and then there's an escalator that goes down, and I go down in the escalator, and then I walk through this passageway that takes me over to the mall, which is where my grocery store is. So if it's raining, there's a lot of like downpours here, I can go over there without getting wet. I'm actually, as soon as this live stream is over, I'm going to walk over there and get some groceries. So it's been amazing. Uptown BGC and BGC in general has been amazing. It's super walkable. It's a little bit pricier than other places, although if you stayed here long term, it's not too bad. You could probably live a pretty good life here for $2,000 to $3,000 a month. If you've ever watched The Bull in Philippines or something like that, sorry I got his name right. I can never remember these YouTube names, but he spent a lot of time here, and his budget, I believe, was somewhere around $2,000, and he really loved it. He's in Thailand now, but he did live here for a while. So if you rent long term here, it's pretty easy, and it's actually really easy to get a visa here or extend your tourist visa. You can extend up to 3 years. It's relatively inexpensive, and you can get like 6-month visas at a time. So it's actually a pretty convenient visa. And then if you're 50 or older, you can get a retirement visa here if you meet the income requirements. Okay, so that's been my year. I lived on a cruise ship for a little bit over 3 months, and then 3.5, 4 months, and then I flew over to Thailand, got a bunch of dental work done, lived in an amazing community called Wisdom Connect, flew to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and stayed in a couple areas, and they just didn't meet the live, work, play that I was looking for. But I do want to try some other places in Kuala Lumpur. I've got some advice from people on different places to stay that might fit my needs, because I love Malaysia. And after Malaysia, I flew over here to the Philippines, and I've been in BGC for over 3 months now. It'll be 4 months when I leave, and it's been amazing. What's next for me? So I fly home late January to visit my mother for about a half a week, and then I fly to Florida, and I start living on cruise ships again. I've really missed it. I'll be on Sun Princess for 30 days, cruising the Caribbean. And then I cross deck. That's a Navy term. I was in the Navy for 20 years. I cross deck over to another ship called the Sky Princess, and I will do one Caribbean cruise on Sky, and then we head over to Europe, and we do a bunch of Mediterranean stuff, Norwegian fjord stuff, and it's going to be really cool. I'm excited about it, and I'm booked up till May. I'm not sure what's going to be after that. I might continue to cruise, or I might hop on a plane, come back to Asia, do some more Thailand exploring or something like that. So that's my year in review and my future plans. And I'll jump into questions now. I saw a question pop up real quick asking me about why I like cruising so much, because cruising isn't everybody's thing. The reason I love it is I love waking up somewhere new every single day without having to do anything. Everything's taken care of for me. Even my bed gets made. I actually make my bed every morning. It's just a career military thing, but which I'm sure my steward really appreciates. But yeah, all your needs are taken care of on a cruise ship, and every morning you wake up somewhere new. It's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool lifestyle. And it's super relaxing. Your food's made for you. I just love it. So I'm going to jump into questions here. I see Andrea Gold's in here. Thanks for moderating, Andrea. I met Andrea on the Sky Princess, which I will be on soon. And a couple of channel members are in here. I see Anne-Marie Foster and Rich L. Thanks, guys, for being channel members for over 3 years now, which is crazy. Another one, Deborah Schaub, same thing, channel member forever. All right. Let's see. Your Time, Your Money says, hello, wonderful cruise enthusiast. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. It's 30 December for me right now. I know a lot of you, it's still 29 December, but it's 30 December for me. So only about a couple days left in 2024 for me. Kevin Hawthorne's in the house from Lakeland. What's going on, man? Nomad Jim is in En Nut in Bangkok. I love En Nut. You guys, if you've watched my videos before, you know I lived in En Nut for a couple months a while back. That's actually one of my more popular Airbnb videos because I got kicked out of an Airbnb. I didn't get kicked out. They asked me to leave because of what the host was suspected of doing. And if you're interested in that, go watch that video. But yeah, I love En Nut. I lived in the IDEO Moby, which is a great little apartment complex right on the BTS there. Hey, if you don't mind smashing that thumbs up button, I appreciate it. Helps more people find the live stream. Joe the Computer Guy, what's going on, man? Says, I have 6 weeks on 2 different cruise ships starting January 4th. That's awesome, man. Whoa, that's really soon. Congratulations, that's awesome. What cruise ships are you going to be on? I'm curious. I bet packing your bags every 7 to 16 days was a hassle. Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, I don't have a lot to pack, so it's not that big a deal. But one of the problems is a lot of days so you have to leave the cruise ship early in the morning, and then you can't board your other cruise ship till like noon or 1. So in Fort Lauderdale, it's actually not too bad because they have the convention center now and it's always open. I don't know why they leave the doors open, but it is. I just go in the convention center and chill in the AC, make sure I have enough battery life on my phone so I can watch some Netflix or YouTube or something while I'm waiting. And another thing is sometimes I can't get the cruise dates to line up. So I'll have to spend a day or 2 in a hotel, which adds more costs, and it's just kind of a pain. So I actually like being on ships longer term when they have a varied itinerary. So I like to start cruising at the end of a season. Like I'm starting cruising on Sun Princess at the end of the Caribbean season. And so when I do about a month in the Caribbean, which is great, but and with a bunch of varied itineraries, but that's about the time I'm ready to go somewhere else. And I'm gonna hop over to Sky, and Sky's going to do one Caribbean, and then we're gonna head across the Atlantic Ocean to England, and I'll be cruising out of England doing Mediterranean cruises and the Norwegian fjords cruises with all the Scandinavian countries. And my favorite cruise port, Tallinn, Estonia. That is my favorite cruise port. People ask me that question a lot. How do you find the ships with varied routes? Asked Carla. So, I mean, it's just legwork, I talk about the website Cruise Plum all the time. And so I'll look for a transatlantic cruise or trans-Pacific, and I'll see where it's at before then, because it's coming from somewhere going somewhere. And so, like right now, I'm searching for a possible trans-Pacific cruise. And a lot of those cruise ships are either cruising the Mexican Riviera during the summer, or they're cruising Alaska during the summer. So if I see that there's a trans-Pacific, then I can hop on, do a month of Alaskan cruising. If I can get lucky and find a Caribbean ship that does a Caribbean cruise and then goes through the Panama Canal and then up the West Coast, like I mentioned earlier with the Ruby Princess, and then does some Alaska and then goes over, that's the holy grail, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for. So that's kind of how I look. I look for the change of home port. And sometimes a Panama Canal cruise you can look for too, because they'll go through the Panama Canal to the West Coast, and that's a good one to find too, to get a varied cruise route. And then you book some on the front end of that and some on the back end of that, and then you got a bunch of different cruises, like I mentioned with Ruby earlier, like Sky Princess. If you booked Sky right now, you could do a month of Caribbean cruising and then go do a few months of European cruising, and then actually Sky's going in the yards for like 2 weeks. You can hop off Sky and get on either Regal or I think it's Emerald. Is it Emerald? It's 2 Princess ships over there. And one of them is doing, one of those ships is doing British Isle cruises, and the other one's doing a bunch of Norwegian fjord type of stuff. And it's a smaller ship, so you get the Arctic Circle, the back side of Norway, not the bottom side. You get the upper side that goes in the Arctic, which is much better. But big ships can't go up there because they don't allow them into the fjords, where the smaller ships can get into the fjords. So you could cross deck over to one of those ships and get some more varied cruising. And then Majestic Princess in July goes from Southampton to Boston. So you can ride Majestic Princess back in July after cruising a bunch of varied routes in Europe. You could ride Majestic Princess back over. So yeah, it's just about getting on like Cruise Plum and kind of finding the transatlantic, trans-Pacific, Panama Canal, the Suez Canal ones. There's a bunch of those too, especially with MSC. Like they'll go from the Middle East over to like Cape Town, South Africa, which is kind of cool, and then up the coast of Africa to Europe. So yeah, you just have to look for them. And the best way to find those is to find the repositioning cruises and then booking some on the front end wherever they're starting at and some on the back end. Or you can, if you've got a lot of money, you can just book world cruises. Like on Villa V, you could do it, or on, like Princess has a couple ships, like Island Princess and Sapphire Princess right now are doing like world cruise type cruises. And there's a bunch of cruise lines that have that, but you can hop on a world cruise and get a varied itinerary without having to do any work. That would be neat to see where Goonies was filmed. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like they have the jail. It's all kind of commercialized now, but you can go and see like the Big Rock where One Eye Willie's ship was at. And you can see the house. It probably annoys the heck out of the people who live there. And you can see the jail, like I mentioned, where the brothers were imprisoned. Hey, Call Me V's in the house. What's going on, Call Me V? Another van life survivor that I was van lifing at the same time as. Two things, Rams look good. Yeah, my Rams won yesterday. They didn't look good, but they won. And I just need a couple games to go my way today. A couple more games. I need the Commanders, either the Commanders to win or the Niners to win, which is Monday Night Football. I would hate for the Niners to win, but I hate having to root for them. But if the Commanders don't win, then I have to root for the Niners. Because if either one of those teams win, then the Rams are the NFC West champions, and next week's game does not matter, which I would prefer so we can rest some starters. But yeah. Kevin, you and Brahm seize the days inspired me to take cruises. I haven't watched him. I got to check him out. I've never seen that channel before, says Keegan. My first was in February 24th, and now I have 4 under my belt, and 6 so far in 2025, and 3 in early 2026. That is amazing. You've got a very Irish name. Is that just a made-up name, or is that your actual name? I did 23andMe. I already knew I had a bunch of Irish roots, but I have a ton of Irish roots, like primarily Irish. A lot of my family come from Galway or Kerry, Ireland. So, according to 23andMe. How did your Hoka shoes hold up? They're holding up great. They're still in great shape. When I buy more shoes, I won't buy white. I bought like the grayish white Hokas, and they're just so dirty now. But I love them. I love the Hoka shoes. I used to not be a person that was like, this brand is better than that brand. Like they're all the same. They're all made in the same place. But those Hokas, man, they're like walking on pillows. I feel so much better after my walks since I got those Hokas. I have the Hoka Giovanni's, by the way. Calvin Marshall's in the house. What's going on, man? Joe the Computer Guy is going to be on NCL Bliss and the MSC Prizosa, and then back on the Bliss. Then home for 10 days, and then off to the NCL Sun, out of New Zealand, around Australia, up to Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand for March. That's amazing, man. That sounds like some amazing cruising. And I love me some NCL. I need to get back on NCL. Also, I think that MSC ship, I think that's the new one, isn't it? So it'll be interesting to hear what you think about that ship. That's really cool, man. That's going to be some amazing cruising there. I still haven't done the New Zealand, Australia stuff. I need to do it. Nomad Jim says, it's interesting how the neighborhood you stay in can make or break the city. I can understand how KL didn't meet your criteria staying in those locations. Yeah, I love KL. I've spent time in KL before. I had looked on a map to like see these different areas because I was trying to find these live, work, play type of communities. And it looked like those were going to be what those were, but they weren't. And so that's how you figure it out, right? But yeah, I love Wisdom Connect in Bangkok, and I love BGC, which isn't a community that's built for that. Like Wisdom Connect is specifically built with that in mind, but BGC is the most live, work, play place I've ever been to. And I lived in New York City. Like I would say New York City is just a little bit above, because I could walk and watch like, Wicked on Broadway. It was only like a block from my house or my apartment. So I'd say it's just a step below New York City with walkability and like livability. Nana on the Run's in the house. She says, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Same to you. Hope everyone had an amazing Christmas. It was so cool to experience Christmas here in the Philippines. Nobody does Christmas like the Philippines. It's like, I've never seen anything like it. And I've been to like European Christmas markets and things like that. Question, have you ever cruised the Diamond Princess out of Singapore? I have not, but I would love to. I've never cruised out of Singapore, but if everything works out with the cruise I've been eyeing, one of the legs of this cruise is sold out right now, but I'm like eyeing it because a lot of times when final payment comes due, cabins will open up. So there's a cruise that goes from, I believe it's Seattle to Japan, and then from Japan to Singapore. It's two separate cruises though. The Japan to Singapore is a separate cruise. You can book it all as one, but that is sold out as well. So I'm waiting to see if that second leg opens up, and then I'll cruise all the way to Singapore, hopefully. In like September, October timeframe, I think is when it leaves. So I'm excited about that. But no, I have not cruised on Diamond Princess out of Singapore yet. But that sounds, I would love to. What's your cost per day when you do a 30-day cruise? So I have all kinds of videos for that. But I try to keep it under $100 a day. That was really easy for a couple years after COVID. It's gotten more difficult, but if you go to Cruise Plum right now, sort by solo cruiser, then sort by cost per day, you will find hundreds of cruises that are under $100 a day. Because people say, you can't find a cruise under $100 a day for a solo cruiser all in. Wrong. You're wrong. You're like, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. But I have cost of living videos where I was living on a cruise ship, so go check that out. I got into the Princess Casino system, and I didn't gamble that much. So don't say, oh, you have to gamble a bunch of money to do that. You might have to now, but during COVID you didn't. And for whatever reason, they've kept me in that casino system where I get free inside cabins. All I have to do is pay port fees, gratuities, and taxes, and put down a $200 deposit, which gets refunded as onboard credit. So I've been cruising, to be honest with you, for about $50 a day. Actually, less than that in some, on a lot of my cruises. I've been cruising for under $50 a day because of those casino deals. But I don't know when those are going to run out. They've been going on forever now. I have videos about that where I talk about like how I think I've stayed in their database, and you can go watch those videos. It's kind of a long story, but yeah, you can find, if I didn't have those, I'd just be on Cruise Plum finding the under $100 a day. Now I'd probably do $120 a day and under $100 a day will get you hundreds of cruises, but under $120 to $125 a day, and this is all in, by the way, taxes, port fees, and gratuities. There'll be probably thousands of cruises with that price. So, especially if you like MSC, you can find $65 a day for solo cruisers. Cruises on Cruise Plum. Minnesota and Darnold beats Green Bay. Yeah, that made me happy because I needed Minnesota to win. I was hoping Cleveland would beat Miami. They didn't. But Minnesota won, and the Bills won earlier. So all I need for the Rams to clinch a playoff spot is one more win or to clinch the NFC West is either a win by the Washington Commanders, who are playing Atlanta, or the 49ers, who are playing somebody good, I think Detroit. So if Minnesota won, so now Detroit has something to play for, because if Detroit loses, then they'll be behind in the division. So they actually still have something to play for, that number one seed. Because if they lose the division, they go from number one seed to the 5th seed. Like if the Rams clinch today, they are the 3rd seed, which is nuts. That we're the 3rd seed when we were 1-4 earlier this season. Croatia 2023 says, by the way, I lived in Croatia on remote year. I love it. I lived in Split, Croatia. And I was actually on the first Navy ship to visit Croatia, Dubrovnik and Split, when they became their own country again, which was awesome in the 90s. It was amazing. Hi, Kevin. I'm newly retired. I'm going to be in Australia and on a New Zealand cruise during the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl. Do you have any advice to watch the NFL? They will have it. They will have games on, for sure, 100%. What cruise line are you on? Like most people who cruise in the world are American. Well, a big percentage, even when you're overseas and cruising in other countries, you're still going to have a big percentage of Americans on there. And so they want to make sure that they play those. Like Princess plays the games on the big screen. NCL, I'm sure will have them. You'll probably be able to watch them in your cabin too if you want. They usually have sports at sea, but they'll also play them on some big screens. NCL probably has some sports bar on board. They usually do, which will probably have all the games playing. But the good thing about the playoffs and the Super Bowl is there's only one game on at a time, so you can almost guarantee that there will be playoffs being shown on board. Andrea says, I treated myself to the Hoka Clifton 9. Very cool. How do you like the Hokas? Keegan's dad is Irish and mom is Croatian. Very cool. Your last name on your YouTube channel is McGillicuddy, and I used to go to an Irish bar called McGillicuddy. Yes, the Cleveland Browns did lose, unfortunately. They kept it close, but they lost. Do you hold any alt or meme coins? I do not. I just have Bitcoin at the moment and Bitcoin proxies. But I did own, I used to have a Bored Ape, if you know what that is, and I used to have some Ape coin. So I wish I still had my Bored Ape. I should have never sold it, but it is what it is. NCL Sun for 27 days, Joe the computer guy, only paid $1,550 and got $350 onboard credit. That's what I'm saying. You can find deals. You just have to look for them. You can find them and figure out when prices drop. Like Princess makes you pay the final payment 120 days out. So usually with Princess, between 120 days out and 90 days out, a lot of their cruises will get much cheaper. A lot of people will buy a couple years in advance, and that's another way to get inexpensive cruises. I don't like cruising that way. I have no idea what I'm going to want to do in 2 years. So I don't like doing it that way. But yeah. Does your $100 a day include drinks and tips? It includes gratuity when you're searching on Cruise Plum. It depends on what cruise line you're on, whether it includes drinks, but it usually does not include that. But if you are at a certain level on Royal Caribbean, you get 4 free drinks a day, 4 to 6 free drinks a day. So it just depends on what cruise line you're on. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't care about that. And like on Princess, I get a free mini bar set up every cruise, and I don't drink, so I just tell them to bring me all Diet Cokes, which is what I drink. So they bring me 20 Diet Cokes. And so I don't pay for soda or anything on there. I'm trying to break my soda habit, by the way, anyway, drinking fruit-infused water. I know I've done this a few times on this channel, and I have broken the habit and then went back to the bad habit, but I'm trying to break myself of diet soda because I drink way too much. I drink it's so unhealthy. I drink a 2.5 liters a day of Pepsi Zero Lime or whatever. So I'm trying to break myself of that habit. Andrea says, I haven't worn my Hocus yet, but I got a fabulous cashback Rakuten deal on them. That is awesome. Congrats on the deal. It's great to get deals on those shoes because they're expensive. Ali says, how's Rocket Lab stock doing? I mean, it's doing great. It's at I don't know what it is right now, $27, $28 a share. I always tell people don't buy what I buy because most of the things I have if this is your first time watching me, I love investing. It's my favorite hobby of anything I do. It goes investing and then travel. I rather invest than travel. It's great when I can combine the two and get to do both. It's kind of like what I do for a living now, but I built up a dividend portfolio for almost 30 years. I just invested in dividend growth stocks, if you know anything about that, like Dividend Aristocrats. And so I have a big dividend portfolio that provides me cash flow every month, which is amazing. But over the last few years, I've got it into more speculative stocks and companies that I want to just own because I love their product. Like I own a lot of Starbucks because I love Starbucks product. And a lot of these companies that I own now are like swing for the fences type of companies where they could, make you a lot of money or lose you all your money. And one of those stocks is a company called Rocket Lab, which is kind of like SpaceX, like a smaller version of SpaceX. You can't actually buy SpaceX. You have to invest through some of their proxies like Google or Tesla, companies like that own part of SpaceX. And there's a little known company. It's a US company, but it's founders from New Zealand. Peter Beck, he's an amazing guy. If you haven't never watched the HBO documentary Wild Wild Space, you'll see him featured in there a lot, even though he's kind of reluctant to be featured in there. And he's just devoted his whole life to building rockets and getting to space and turning it into a profitable business. And Rocket Lab is a publicly traded company that you can buy. And I love owning a space company. I do think the economics of the company is very viable, but it is super risky. Space is one of the riskiest things you can invest in. And when I started talking about it on this YouTube channel, it was at like $3 or $4 a share, and now it's at $27 a share. And it got as high as like 28 something a share. And I always tell people, do not buy stocks I recommend on here, or I buy on here, because when I bought them, they were probably a lot cheaper. But some of you did decide to buy some Rocket Lab, and it's up 300-400%, which is awesome. I'm super happy if you benefited from that. But again, do not buy stocks on my recommendation, because that stock could easily, if they start crashing rockets, that stock could go to zero and be bought out by SpaceX, and you won't get anything. But I love owning a space company. Their ball caps have been out of stock, and it really upsets me because I want to get a ball cap before I want to have a Rocket Lab ball cap to wear when I'm cruising. I have my Princess ball cap, which I love, by the way. I love this ball cap. I bought it on Ruby Princess. It is the Salty Dog Cafe, which if you've ever been on Princess, there's always a Salty Dog Cafe, usually on the pool deck where you can get free pizza. No, you can't get free pizza there. There'll be a pizza place on there. And then they'll also have the Salty Dog Cafe, which you can get free hamburgers, French fries, hot dogs, all that stuff it's part of your cruise fare. And then it's got the little Princess logo here on the back. But yeah, a bald guy need to be wearing a ball cap. I love my the Salty Dog Cafe ball cap. It's like my favorite ball cap now. But I want to get my Rocket Lab ball cap as well to bring with me. But it's been unavailable on their website because it's sold out during Christmas. Rocket Lab has a huge retail investor community like me that just love owning a rocket company. And so they just buy up all the gear. Princess final payment is 90 days out. Yeah, that's correct. It's 90 days out, which is great. I actually like that because, yeah, at the 90-day mark of a cruise before it goes, there'll be people that say, booked it 2 years ago and their situation has changed and they just lose their $100 deposit instead of having to pay, $2,400 for their cruise. They just go, I don't want to go. And they lose their $100 deposit. And then at some point, it'll pop up on the website that cabin's available. And a lot of times it'll be at a discounted rate. Because there's not a ton of people that are like me that book cruises last minute. So Andrea just booked Enchanted for December of 2025. Amazing. 14 days, but it's not a back-to-back. Is it 2 7-day cruises? Or is it just one actual 14-day cruise? Sorry, just joined, but recognized the view of BGC or Makati. For a second, I thought it was Bangkok and then realized it was Manila. Yeah, Nathan, that is BGC, Uptown BGC. That is the BGC Mall right there, the top of it. I think it looks clear for you guys. It doesn't on my thing, but you can see there's like painted like sunflowers, and there's a big cross right there. Big Catholic country here, so there are crosses everywhere. But yeah, I'm in BGC, Uptown BGC. Chris says, debating if I should do all-inclusive resorts or return to cruising. Never done an all-inclusive resort before. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I've always wanted to do that too, like a sandals resort or something. Like I've been talking about like possibly buying a condo somewhere. And one of the other options I'm looking at is buying a place in like a resort community where it's just like resort-like. There's pools, there's, it's all part of the community where there's shops and restaurants, but it's inside like a gated community type of thing. And I've been looking at I would love to live resort. I used to be very adventurous and like want to sleep in hostels and things like that. But now I just love safety and comfort when I'm living my life. I just want a peaceful, safe environment that's very, very comfortable. I used to want to be like, lugging around a backpack, sleeping in hostels, going rock climbing, skydiving, all that kind of stuff. And that stuff just doesn't appeal to me anymore. So yeah. Any plans for New Year's Eve? So I am like the most boring introvert. I saw this YouTube channel recently that had a video called, it was called like Cruising Virgin, first time on Virgin Cruises from a boring introvert's perspective. And I thought that is an amazing title. And I will probably actually steal it in the future and use it on some of my videos because that is exactly what I am. I'm a boring introvert. And if I'm actually up at midnight, which is highly unlikely because I like to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, the good thing about this apartment is I can see fireworks and there will be a ton of stuff happening. There's all kinds of nightclubs down here and I will be able to see it. And if I choose to walk out and go into it, I can. But I can also just, be an introvert and sit up here and watch Anderson Cooper on CNN. Although that'll be early in the morning for me, the next day early in the morning. But yeah, I'm a boring introvert. I don't have any plans for New Year's Eve. Joe the Computer Guy says, I booked a last minute cruise on Carnival Venezia. How was that? That's a brand new ship. 7 days for $271. I just got back today. That's what I'm saying. Look at Joe the Computer Guy. Where are you at, Joe? You must be in Florida. Like, that's why I need a condo in Florida, so I can just get all these amazing last minute cruise deals. Yeah. Andrea says her cruise is 14 days without a 7-day break. That must be like an ABC cruise, huh, Andrea? If it's 14 days without going back to the port. What airline do you recommend for West Coast of Vietnam? I don't know, Monica. I would have to look. I would have to search. Like with Vietnam, I didn't know what airlines flew direct to Manila, and it turned out that there's 2 that have direct flights to the United States, Philippine Air and United Air. And so what I would do is I would get on Google Flights, Monica, and I would search all the major West Coast airports to Vietnam and see which airlines have a nonstop flight. And there might not be any. But I would check that. That's the way I would check first and see if there are any nonstop. Because when you're traveling that far, it's so much better to be on a nonstop flight, especially if you can get business class with a lie flat seat. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. So I'm not 100% sure. Nathan says, I lived in Makati in 2017 to 19 before heading to Bangkok for COVID. Back in London now, but definitely missing Manila life. Yeah, I love it here. It's like BGC is so great. I haven't lived in Makati, but I've heard it's very similar. Maybe a little bit more rough around the edges. But what I love about BGC is it's super walkable, the entire BGC, and it's super safe. Like, I don't know if there's anywhere else in the world other than maybe Japan that I've felt, and Singapore, more safe than I do in BGC. I know there's occasionally some petty crime here, but they stamp it out pretty quick. They try to keep this place as safe as possible. And some people say, well, that's because it's a bubble. Whatever. Whatever. I'll be, Joe the Computer Guy says, also a boring introvert. I'll be asleep at 9 p.m. on New Year's Eve. Yeah, sometimes I try to stay up. Like I do get up early a lot for the stock market. Like I'll try to get up at least an hour before the stock market closes in the US, which is usually around, which here is around 3 a.m. at the moment. I think 3 a.m., maybe 4 a.m. I usually get up at 3 a.m. though. And then during football season, I have to get up at 2 a.m. a lot to watch my Rams play if they have the early game. Luckily, they usually have the late game, which is at 5:30. But yeah, so I'm almost always getting up between 2 and 4 in the morning. And so yeah, I usually go to bed early. It's not uncommon for me to be in bed by 7:30 and asleep by 8 p.m. I know that sounds awful, and I don't care what people think about it, to be honest with you. I could care less. It's what makes me happy. And if that doesn't make you happy, then don't do that. Do what you do. But yeah, I don't drink alcohol, so New Year's Eve is just a day off from the stock market. I actually hate weekends and I hate holidays because I don't work. I'm very fortunate to be in a financial position where I don't have to have a 9 to 5. I actually don't like weekends because like I mentioned, my favorite hobby is investing, and the stock market is closed during those times. So it's actually a bummer for me when it's the weekend or a holiday. But I actually am glad that New Year's is happening when it's happening in the middle of the week, because I have some covered call options on Rocket Lab at $30 a share that I really want to expire worthless. I don't want to have to either roll my options or have to pay to buy them back, buy my shares back. So I'm hoping that because there's one less day, that'll keep Rocket Lab from hitting 30, which would be an all-time high anyway. I mean, it'd be a good thing in a way, but I want those to expire worthless. And there's getting ready to be an announcement on whether Rocket Lab wins this Mars contract to basically fly a mission to Mars, retrieve some soil samples, and bring them back, which has actually never been done. And so they're in the running for it. They're one of the only space companies that kind of have that type of technology to be able to pull it off. And so they actually already have things on Mars, Rocket Lab does. And yeah, so that's going to be announced sometime in January. So if Rocket Lab wins that contract, then the stock's probably going to go gangbusters again. So I got to make sure I get out of these calls before the stock goes gangbusters again. You're kind of playing with fire when you buy covered calls on volatile stocks, but it's a good way to make income. You know, I can make off my Rocket Lab position. I can make $500 to $2,000 a week writing covered calls, and so. But I don't want to lose my Rocket Lab stock, so I have to be really careful. Jen and Tommy, what's going on, guys? We went to Sandals in Jamaica, and it was great, but super hot and humid in July. I would definitely choose a different time of year. Yeah, that's like, I'm really glad I'm doing this transatlantic when I'm doing it. Like, I think my transatlantic is into February. March timeframe, and so I'll be leaving the Caribbean when it's about to start getting hot and leaving the United States, and I'll be cruising out of England doing a lot of Norwegian fjord stuff. And even during the summer, it's kind of like Alaska there. It's like super nice weather, you know. You may get up into the 70s Fahrenheit, and at night it's like in the 50s. It's super nice weather. So I'm excited about it. Ann Foster says, my plans for New Year's include finishing watching season 5 of Yellowstone and in bed by 10. Those party days are in the past. I haven't watched Yellowstone at all. My mother loves it. She says I need to watch it. So maybe I will in the future. Are there any meetups there with friends and familiar faces? you talking about here in BGC? None that I have planned at the moment, but yeah. Andrea says Aruba and Curacao are included. I figured that if it was a 14-day cruise, they were probably doing at least some of the ABC islands. Joe spends winters in Orlando. I'm an RV guy full time. 5 ports within a few hours and a Florida resident. We get good deals all the time. Ooh, that's good to know. So let me ask you a question, Joe. So you own an RV. Do you have what do you do when you cruise? Do you drive it to the cruise line and pay port fees to park it? Do you have a place you own, like to park your RV? Like what do you do with your RV when you cruise is my question. Because I could see myself doing that at some point. I used to have a 1,000 Trails membership, but I sold it when I left. I didn't want to pay the yearly fee when I wasn't using it. So I sold it, but I used to have a 1,000 Trails membership, and there's a really good 1,000 Trails in Orlando. Going Green Mom also is not a partier during New Year's Eve. Rich watches the fireworks and then heads to bed. We all sound like we're very similar. I definitely took a couple days to get used to the security guards with shotguns. As a British guy, not used to seeing that, but agree 100% safe. Yeah, there are security guards around BGC with shotguns. So, I mean, that's something you will see. Dan works on Aegis, which is a system used by destroyers in the Navy. That's really cool. I was never on a destroyer. I was on frigates, and we didn't have Aegis. And I was on some Gator freighters, if you know what those are, which also do not have Aegis. And then I was on aircraft carriers, which benefit from Aegis. But yeah, not a system that I'm super familiar with. But I had a lot of friends that were fire controlmen that worked on Aegis. Going Green Mom says they have stuff on Mars. Yeah, there's a couple things that SpaceX has helped build that is on Mars. And actually they have more stuff too going to Mars. Not SpaceX, Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab is, a lot of people just think of Rocket Lab as a rocket launch company, but they're actually a full space company. They can do anything. They can put your satellite in orbit. They can also build your satellite, and they can operate your systems. So they're like a full 100% space company. So you can go to Rocket Lab and say, if you have the money, you can go to them and say, hey, I want a Going Green Mom satellite that just provides data to me. And I don't know how to build satellites, and I don't know how to operate them or extract the data. I want you to do that for me. And they'll say, okay, this is the price. And it's actually pretty inexpensive to launch a satellite with Rocket Lab. It's around $9 million to launch a satellite on Electron, which is their small rocket. Pretty soon, hopefully they'll have the big rocket, which is Neutron, which is like kind of a little bit smaller than SpaceX's Falcon 9, but it can carry almost as much payload. So that'll be really cool when that happens. But yeah, they're a full service space company. And they also bought they also can design like rovers and things like that. And so they have stuff on Mars that have the Rocket Lab logo on it. We have a lot of stuff on Mars if you don't know that. There's a great documentary about the 2 Mars landers, and basically it's like from the Mars landers' perspective, which I think one was called Oppie, I believe. And if you don't know anything about the Mars lunar rovers, they were only supposed to last like a few months, and they ended up lasting like years, and explored much more of Mars than was originally intended. And they had specific teams devoted to them and that operated them. But at some point, their life ended on Mars for whatever reason. And it's an interesting documentary. It's kind of like from the rover's perspective, and they kind of like, you'll get teary-eyed when the last rover basically dies. You'll get teary-eyed for an inanimate object on the moon, because the storytellers did a really good job telling the stories of this. But it's a really cool documentary about those rovers and their, like, all the information they provided and like how long they lasted on Mars, which is really, but they're still there. I mean, they're just Mars junk, you know. And there's a lot of stuff on Mars like that. And Rocket Lab is also going to go to Venus and explore the atmosphere of Venus, where some people think there could be life in the atmosphere, not on the surface of Venus. It's uninhabitable because of the pressure, but the atmosphere of Venus, they think, could have life, but nobody's ever really explored it. So, and the founder of Rocket Lab is really interested in Venus. So there'll probably be a Rocket Lab, but that's like a pet project of his. It's not a moneymaker, and it is a publicly traded company, so you have to do things that make money as well. But it's something that he's planning on doing once Neutron is up and running, which is their major expense right now. Sorry, I went off on a tangent on Rocket Lab. Nomad Jim says, as a retired person, I don't like weekends or holidays either. Too many people everywhere. When you're retired, you like Mondays and hate weekends. I agree with that. The only caveat to that, I would say, here in BGC, because Uptown BGC is like their financial district, and it has a ton of white-collar local Filipino workers, and all the grocery store and the restaurants are packed during working hours. And so I actually like the weekend here because the grocery store is much easier to go to, and the restaurants are too. Believe it or not, I know that sounds weird, but yeah. Maureen says my drink looks really refreshing. Yeah, it's just a piece of lemon in here. I'm actually, when I get off this phone, I'm going to go buy some more water, and I'm going to get some oranges. I've been doing mostly lemons, but I want to add some oranges to it. But yeah, I'm trying to break I've had this diet soda addiction my whole life, and I drink a lot of it. That's the problem. If I drink it in moderation, it would maybe be okay, but I drink way too much of it. Like, it's basically a water replacement for me. Joe the Computer Guy says, I have a friend with some land that I can leave my RV on at any time. That's awesome. That's awesome. That would be the key, is having somewhere to put your RV, because paying for parking is an expense I would definitely not want to have. Joe the Computer Guy says, I have a TT membership. They have a newer upgraded plan that is really awesome. That sounds awesome. I mean, I had an old one that was awesome though. I mean, it was awesome. It was like one of the old grandfather plans. You know, you can buy used plans, and I bought like one that allowed me to do everything. Like, I could stay 21 days per, I believe. It was amazing. It was amazing. I didn't have to have any breaks in between stays. It was really good membership. Joe stayed in Tampa because it's free going to Moffett for my treatment every day. Yeah, how's your treatment going, man? I hope everything is going good. I know we had similar things. Curiosity and Perseverance are still operating on Mars. Very cool. I think the original two though are not. Oppie and I think one's called Oppie. Maybe it's Oppie 1 and Oppie 2 or something like that. I mean, it was like a cutesy name too for the documentary. But yeah, I'm sure, I know there's other rovers that came after, but the original ones that went there. I like frozen grapes and blueberries for ice cubes. That's actually a good idea. I actually thought about getting grapes, but I was like, if I get all these grapes to put in my water, they'll go bad too soon. And it just doesn't make sense. But I didn't even think about putting them in the freezer. That actually makes a lot of sense. Put the grapes in the freezer, and then I can just grab a couple, throw them in, and just leave them in there all day with the different fill-ups I do. Because I usually just do 1 or 2 slices of, and I just refill it up and just keep the same slice in there. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's like toxic or something. I don't know. I don't think it is because there's so much acid in lemon. I'd imagine that it doesn't start getting bacteria until it's like really old. Andrea gave up soda for iced tea. Yeah, the problem with me is I like sweet drinks, and so even when I do iced tea, I put a bunch of Splenda in it. So I'm still getting that toxic chemical like that I'm getting in. If it wasn't for the toxicity of the Pepsi Zero, I wouldn't care. I'd just drink it because I love it. But I know that because of how much I drink, there's probably some kind of like negative health effect over time. So I need to quit because I've been doing it for years. I turned 50 in 2025, so my mortality is starting to set in, and like I need to do everything I can. Like my grandfather, my mother's father, he's still alive. He's in his late 90s. He lives alone. He's healthy. He has a great quality of life. His sister, my Aunt Jean, who sometimes watches these videos. Hi, Aunt Jean, if you're watching. She's also in her 90s and like is as healthy as an ox, lives alone. And my grandmother, the mother of my grandfather I was just mentioning, she died like 10 years ago, and almost 100. She had my grandfather when she was 13, by the way. That's why they're so close in age. If you just did the math in your head, she had him really, really young. But don't forget, this was in the early 1900s, so different time. And they lived in rural Tennessee, which was, farm. You just have a bunch of kids for farms. But so I have good genes on that side, although my father died in his early 70s. My mother's still alive, she's in her 70s. So on my father's side, but my father was also, an alcoholic, abused opioids, so that could have contributed to him too as well. Even though it was ruled like heart disease, he had a lot of bad habits, and he smoked his whole life. So he had a lot of bad habits that I don't have. I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke, but I do drink. I mean, it's probably just as toxic to drink diet soda, like especially in the amounts that I drink it. How do I feel about syrup, maple syrup and honey? Yeah, I love honey and I know it's super healthy. My problem is I gain weight really, really easily. It's something I've struggled with my whole life. I know a lot of people see me and say, oh, you look so skinny. I walk 20,000 steps a day. That's how I stay thin. And I could do honey. I love the taste of honey. And I should do that, but that adds a lot of calories. So, but I know it's really good for you, and it has what do they call it? What are those positive? anti-cancerous things. I can't remember the name of it, but it's in like blueberries and everything, but honey has them too. But it has a lot of good properties that are healthy for you. But it'd probably make me it'd probably make me gain weight if I did that. Which is why I drink diet soda, because it doesn't have any calories. Anti-inflammatory, yeah, anti-inflammatory. But there's another, like, what's the micronutrients or whatever, I believe is what they call it, that are anti-cancerous? Antioxidants, there it is, antioxidants. How come I couldn't think of that? There we go, antioxidants. Everyone's chiming in. All right, we still have a bunch of people in here, 100 people. If you don't mind smashing that thumbs up button, I'd appreciate it. It just helps more people find the live stream. And if you have any questions, throw them out there. I'm all caught up on questions. If you are just joining and you want to know, you want a wrap up of the travel I did this year, which was living on a cruise ship for about 4 months this year. I lived over a year, but 4 months of it was in this year. Then I went to Thailand for a few months, Kuala Lumpur Malaysia for a few months, and now I'm in the Philippines. And I'm getting ready at the end of January to start cruising again for at least 4 months, probably more. Someone said, did you run into Keith yet? No, I haven't run into Keith yet, Don. Diet soda is tearing holes in your memory banks. That could be, I've heard that. Spock Prime is in St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis, man. Born and raised in St. Louis, in the South County area. My mother lives in DeSoto, Missouri now, which is way, way south of Missouri. But my brother still lives, he lives in Arnold. So I guess, no, actually he lives past Arnold, further south than Arnold. But most of my family still lives in St. Louis or outside of St. Louis. Noah's Ark says, I'm looking forward to your cruising videos. Yeah, I'm excited. I've got that new DJI Osmo Pocket with the wireless mic. I'm super excited to try it out. Hopefully, I'm going to get serious about making content again. I'm still going to do live streams on turnover days because I really enjoy them and a lot of you guys enjoy them. But I'm going to try to do more like produced content. And I think that Osmo Pocket will help with that. I do love filming with my phone, but sometimes can be a pain in the rear end. And also you're out for the day and you start running out of battery when you film a lot. And the mic setup, while it is wireless, it makes the phone unusable as a phone for a little bit. And so it's kind of a pain in the butt with the using my phone to film videos, even though I love the convenience of it. So I have an Osmo Pocket now, and hopefully that will up my vlogging game, and I'll start producing more vlogging videos when I cruise. I mean, it's smart for me to do because I make a ton of money making cruise videos. I don't know if you know that, but cruising videos are super, super profitable, and that's why people are able to make cruise content full-time, like some of the big cruise vloggers, because the cruise lines pay a ton of money to advertise on top of you. So Noah's Ark says, I purchased the DJI on Black Friday. Looking forward to using it. Yeah, very cool, very cool. I use GoPro for videos. I used to use GoPro as well. I do like it, but I like good audio. And the only way to have good audio is to have a lapel mic, some sort of lapel mic. And so it was either hook up this Rode Wireless Pro to my phone, which is great for sit-down videos like this. It's easy. But when you're on the go, it's a pain in the ass. So I like that the Osmo Pocket, and also I have to have something to plug into my phone to make this work. With the Osmo Pocket, the mic works with the Pocket by just turning it on. It's automatically synced. So it just makes that super, super easy and user-friendly. Going Green Mom says, will you take us on a walk before then? Yeah, maybe I'll do it on a live stream if I have enough gigabytes left in my phone. My international plan, I get 5 gigabytes. If I have enough left at the end of my time here, I'll just go out and use it on a live stream of me walking around here in BGC. If not, maybe I'll make a standalone video with that. But yeah, I would love to be able to do a live stream and show you guys BGC that way. Those are really popular here. I've seen a bunch of live streamers here in BGC. Is the Osmo the one where you can walk with it over your shoulder and the stick doesn't show? No, I don't think so. I have the, hold on, let me grab it. This is it right here. So I have the, it's called the Osmo Pocket, like whatever. It actually has a screen here that you turn like that to turn it on. And it's on a gimbal, obviously, so then you got smooth footage. And this is the lapel mic. I wish it had the black one, because I wear black all the time. Because I hate, this looks so goofy. Although you can put it inside your shirt, it has like a magnet, but then it just does some weird stuff to your shirt. So it's not that easy. But yeah, I like that it has this front-facing thing, and it's just super easy to use. It's super small. I actually have the bottom hookup, but you can see how small it is. If not, but I'd probably have this hookup on, which has the little thing. And the camera also follows your face. It has tracking, follow your face, which is great. So it's just a really user-friendly setup with this, with the mic and everything. So it's, I'm excited about trying it out and seeing if it makes the whole vlog experience more convenient. Doing this, a lot of the vloggers that you see, like vloggers like Emma Cruz's, she doesn't do vlogs. She does sit downs like this and runs B-roll over the top. She doesn't shoot. It's kind of a pain in the butt when you do it alone. A lot of the vloggers you see that are really good at it, like Ben and David, there's 2 of them. There's one filming, there's one doing whatever it is they're doing. And so when you have someone to film for you, vlogging is super easy. But when you don't have that, it's a huge like pain in the butt. It's kind of inconvenient. It's much easier to do that type of stuff when you have somebody with you. It's not as embarrassing as it is when you're trying to do it by yourself, if that makes sense. Like it's kind of like talking, like walking and talking is kind of weird. But when you have somebody filming you, like people kind of look at it like you're filming a movie or something. And yeah. So yeah. Have you seen the channel Mer Cruises Solo? I haven't. I'll have to check that out. She's making content, great edited content. If you need inspiration, although not a full-time YouTuber. Yeah, I'll check it out for sure. I love cruise content. My number one thing I watch is YouTube. I watch financial stuff on there. I watch cruise stuff. I watch travel stuff. I mean, I learned about BGC from YouTube, vloggers, so. Maybe you can find some dye or a Sharpie for the dead cat. Yeah, that's what they call these little fuzzy things. They call them dead cats. Yeah, maybe I can do that. I can dye it. That's a good idea. Ann says a lot of the Disney vloggers use those and their videos are very stable and sound great. Yeah, I mean that Osmo Pocket is, like, especially the new one, it has a bigger sensor on it, on the camera. So what your phone can't do, well, it kind of can now, but it's hard to do, is give you a little bit of a blurry background. which makes you stand out and just makes for an overall better like vlog experience. And the reason is because the sensor is so small. You need a bigger sensor to do that whole like blurry background. And that's why a lot of vloggers like Ben and David use a really big camera so they can put big lenses on it that allow what's called depth of field, where they have the kind of blurry background. But the sensor on this is bigger and it gives you a little bit of that. It's called bokeh, a bokeh effect. It gives a little bit more bokeh, a natural one. There are, like, phones can do like their own digitally, but it just doesn't look that great. It's getting better, but it doesn't look as good as a lens designed to blur out the background, to provide that blurry background. If you go and watch my earlier videos, like if you go watch my Midnight in Paris video, I had a really expensive camera and you'll see how beautifully shot it is. Like the Eiffel Tower at night, the rain. When you're looking at me on the camera, the background is very bokeh in the rain at night. It looks really beautiful. And it also takes in a bunch of light at night. And it's just beautiful. It's beautifully filmed, but it was a huge pain in the ass. I had it on a gimbal. It was just huge. It was the same thing Ben and David have. And it does produce amazing shots, but it's a huge pain in the ass when you're by yourself. I mean, the thing is 50 pounds when you're out there. I mean, it weighs a lot. Maybe not 50, but it's heavy. And yeah, just you got to pack it. It's just a huge pain in the butt. Maxine's got to go. That's okay, Maxine. Would the dental work you got done be a similar price in Manila? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I did not check prices in Manila. I know a lot of people that have gotten dental work done in Thailand, and that's why I felt comfortable with Thailand. And then when I found the dentist I found that went to University of Michigan, dental school, which I know is a really good dental school, I got really comfortable with her. There's just no way I was going. A lot of people, it's funny because it ended up costing me $18,000 for 22 crowns and 6 veneers, all the top brands that you would buy in the United States. And I also had to have 1 root canal. And because I had a really bad overbite, they had to build up the back of my teeth. And so that's a big expense, but it was under 18 grand to have all that work done, a month and a half's worth of work. That in the United States probably would have cost $50,000 to $80,000. But a lot of people go, oh, you got ripped off in Thailand. And it's true, I could have got it done cheaper there, for sure. But I could have went to Turkey and got it done cheaper. But I wanted work done by a dentist that I was really comfortable with, that went to an American dental school, had a long track record of doing this stuff. And yeah, I didn't mind paying a little bit extra because, to be honest with you, it's a huge bargain. Like my friends in the U.S. like can't even believe like that have had this done. You know, I was a lawyer. I have a lot of really rich friends that like went. You know, they've spent $100,000 on their grill, and they couldn't believe the brands that I have. Like my veneers are Easy Max, which are like the #1 brand. They couldn't believe the brand I have and like how good it looks. Like they're like super impressed. So, but yeah. But yeah, I don't know if it would be similar price in Manila, to be honest with you. In my mind, I would think it might be a little bit more expensive here. Anyone can make a latte, but when it comes to dental doctor price is not the only factor. Yeah, I agree with that. Like anytime I do anything, medical or dental, I do a lot of research on the person. It's funny because what's what was interesting about the legal profession, and this is deserved or undeserved, is where you went to law school mattered in the beginning and forever. Like going to a top tier law school makes life so much easier on you as a lawyer. And it's funny that we don't consider that with doctors and dentists. We don't even ask. And I guess maybe a lot of people don't do that with lawyers, but when you're getting hired in the legal profession, it matters where you went to school. Whether it's getting hired for the first time or later on down the line. Your work performance can make up for what people would consider an inferior law school. Over time it can, for sure, 100%. But it's just such a big difference between going to a top tier law school and not, as far as like getting jobs and where you work. And it's kind of weird that we don't even look at that with doctors and lawyers. But I always look at that. I look at their background. I go online. Now everyone can review people, and I read all the reviews for the doctor and all that kind of stuff. So, and I search all of the things where they can get in trouble, you know? So yeah. But yeah, I did extensive research on my dentist. And she did not disappoint. She was amazing. I couldn't be happier with that choice. Andrea checks AVO. Yeah, that's a thing full of lawyers, a list full of lawyers. I have an AVO profile, believe it or not, because I still have my. I'm still barred. I maintain my law license, so I'm still barred. D. Walker says, I'm working with her now. Thank you for the referral. That is awesome. I don't get any money from her or anything like that. In my opinion, they're super underpaid in Thailand, so I would never ask for that. They actually offered it to me, but I was like, no. Like, I am singing your praises because you did good work on my grill. Like, I don't need any financial benefit from it to talk about it. When are you planning to go to Thailand? You're talking to D. Oh, that's cool that you're working with her though, D. That's awesome. She is great though. I can't speak highly enough of her. You know, when you get veneers and crowns, you still have to get dental cleanings just like you do when you don't have stuff covering your teeth. It's the same thing. Like if you drink a lot of soda, they will stain. But the good thing about crowns is that's different than teeth is if there is staining, it's easy to remove it with a cleaning. And like I mentioned, I drink so much soda. I noticed that some of the back ones are like not as white as they were before. Not the front ones, but maybe drinking this lemon water will help. But yeah. Going Green Mom said, Dr. Vichalata, I believe, was his main dentist. Yeah, if you want to watch the video, I have a whole video on my dental experience from the very first appointment all the way to the very end. My final results, you can kind of see them right now. You know, I couldn't be happier. It's around 6-7 months later now, and it's just, it's money well spent. So. Any tips for someone trying to retire but struggling to quit my job? Seems to be a mental blocker. Okay, so when I left the legal field, I remember I was making tons of money, by the way. I was a New York corporate lawyer. And it's really easy to say, I'll just work another year, save a gazillion dollars, get my bonus. And when you're a lawyer, you get an annual bonus, and it's usually substantial, sometimes 6 figures, actually sometimes 7 figures for partners. But I wasn't a partner. But I remember I really wanted to travel, and my thought process was, I can always come back and get this job again. If things aren't working out, I'm not happy, I'm running out of money, which I had myself set up where that wasn't going to be an issue. So if you have like all your ducks in a row, like your financial situation taken care of and all that kind of stuff, you can always go back and get a job. I remember I saw this video one time, and I mentioned this in one of my videos, which was, you can always return to your shitty job. Not everyone has shitty jobs. Some people love their jobs. But a lot of people stay in shitty jobs when they can always go back and get another shitty job. So I'm not saying your job is shitty, but if it is a shitty job, you can definitely find another shitty job if things don't work out. And if it's a great job, and you can probably find another similar job, or maybe even go back into your role that you're in now. So yeah, my advice is, if you have all your ducks in a row, you can always go back, but you can't get the time back, right? You can't get your time back. So I don't regret leaving the law firm in 2019 at all whatsoever. It was one of the best decisions of my life. I got to see the world. I got to do a remote year, meet amazing people, like embark on this amazing adventure that has turned into a bunch of different adventures and continues on to this point. Like, I just would never, I'm so happy I made that decision. Joe the computer guy says, yep, you need your ducks in a row. That's why I retired at 52 8 years ago. Thank you. My job is good, but I'm 55 and feel that these are the best years of my senior life and don't want to regret working the 9 to 5. I mean, are you American, Surrey? So the good thing is, you know that in a, hold on. My Apple computer, when I said your name, thought I said something else. The biggest thing is you're 55. I believe you can get Social Security at 57. So you have 2 years before you get that. Okay, you're Canadian. Soon to be the 51st state. Yeah, right. That stuff's so silly. It would actually be, like, I'm not saying it should happen, but it would actually be kind of cool if the US and Canada merged, I think. I think it'd be amazing. If it was beneficial for both sides, obviously. I wouldn't want it to be some kind of act of aggression that caused it, but I think that would actually be an amazing, and pretty natural combo. But yeah, I don't know how the retirement system works there, but you can kind of you can kind of figure that out. The great thing about being Canadian is I believe you have healthcare, so that's not an issue with you. With a lot of Americans, that's an issue, healthcare, because healthcare is so expensive, and it's normally paid by an employer. So then you got to go find it yourself, and it just gets really, really annoying. And I was lucky that I'm retired military, so I have basically free healthcare. It cost me a little bit because I opt for the private option. Instead of going to military bases, I can go anywhere and get a doctor. But so it's very similar to Canada for me because healthcare wasn't an issue. But yeah. Surrey says healthcare is lost if out of the country more than 6 months. So that's something you'll have to plan around, obviously. All right. I think I'm going to call this a live stream. It's been really awesome to have you guys hang out with me this year. And I think my next video will be probably a video about my 2025 plans, which I've said a lot of them here already today. But Happy New Year to everybody, and wishing you a safe New Year's Eve and an amazing 2025. Thanks for joining me on this journey again for another year. I really appreciate all of you. You have no idea how much I love this community here and how much I appreciate you guys. It warms my heart and brings a tear to my eye when I think about how great it is to get to hang out with you guys like this, and you guys want to actually hear what I have to say and want to join in on the conversation. And I really appreciate that. So it's been an awesome year. Thank you, everyone, for joining the live stream today and joining all your